start. Koma, of all people, with the Widowmaker, takes down Hoxel off the start. Huge pick. Wrecking Ball coming down now. Pile Driver going to be dropped in. Lumpy going to fall low. But Bumper and Twilight both going to go down. They traded out for the Zenyatta, and the res is available from Koma, so puts them right back into the fight. Runaway. They are going to have to do...
This is like really weird defense. I can't even remember this. I was watching this at like 6 in the morning at the time.
Hoxel off the start. Huge pick. Wrecking Ball coming down now. Pile Driver going to be dropped in. Lumpy going to fall low. But Bumper and Twilight both going to go down. They traded out for the Zenyatta, and the res is available from Koma, so puts them right back into the fight. Runaway. They are going to have to do some damage control now. Janu.
Like, I kind of get the idea of the comp. At the same time, it's like, it's really weird.
He hasn't been spotted yet, but he doesn't have a pulse bomb either. He's only going to buy time. Rockets are coming down. Halfway there, Pile Driver dropping back in. He gets in on top of Lumpy, trying to get rid of that Zenyatta. The pocket comes through from Koma, trying to keep him alive. They charge for it, and that's going to be Lumpy going down. And now Runaway.
Target prioritization here is like insanely smart by Stitch. Even though it's usually just like hit the Zen, win the fight. Kongdoo's running like really low heals, so focusing the Zen and forcing the Mercy to pocket the Zen is actually just going to kill the tanks.
Over the point, it seems like they will be able to do so at the last possible moment, really. Ding gets Hoxall, but the rest of his team is dying. Spraying away with the quad cannons, looking for the shots on Akoma. Not quite going to be able to track him down, but Twilight gets him. I mean, the other thing about Wrecking Ball is he's technically hit scan, and he can do a lot of range damage to help track down a Pharah like that, as you just saw Janu do. His accuracy is insane. It is, and this comp is designed to have Wrecking Ball cause disruption.
Kongdoo went back to their standard comp. Hold on, let's see. Okay.
Damage, and they bought enough time to do that. Pile Drive straight back in again. Bumper going to die off the bat. Janu falling low, now has the ult ready to go. Got the kill there on the Roar. The rest is going to have to be channeled. Koma puts him back into the fight. Twilight, Nano boost set, ready to roll. See if it's
Seems like the supports are holding. Supports are like holding close, so like they're holding like in here, and then the Pharah's playing like safe on the tower, and they're basically just playing to engage in this area every single fight, and then basically kite back if they've made like a positive trade. The problem is like they don't have the res to match if they trade, and then aren't able to hold the ground. So.
Supports available for the side of Runaway. Now it's going to be Hoxall getting kills. He hits the ground. The tanks waiting to try to re-engage, but they're not going to get the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a bit of a wonky strat, I'd say. The Mercy really just plays to counter it.
This comp is designed to shut down Reinhardt comps, at least disrupt them, and allow Hoxall to do massive damage, and then, of course, combo his swings with a barrage. But it just didn't happen that way, especially because he was the first to die right out of the opening, with Koma predicting he would be on that Zarya. Now they're going to play aggressive, try to get a big grab here out of the gate. Here it is, right on the wall. Straight in onto the wall. No real follow-up yet. Hyunjin actually fall dangerously low. Roar now down to about half HP as they choke.
I know they want to like grab early. The problem Kongdoo continues to have is the proper follow-up versus these teams with their grabs. So I'm trying to see how many members are here. It's Youngjin, Roar, and Decay. Yeah, they all get antied is the problem, so they have to play like really safe. So Youngjin and Decay both are like backing up. Because they're both basically 1 HP, and then Roar just plays to pin in the grab rather than like swinging. Because there's a trance that goes off, so. So they made a positive trade, but like using the grab versus this team now is actually not going to be as value. It's going to be really hard to build.
Look at the gatekeeping here from Panthera. They can't even get out of the spawn. Stitch gets a flank. Ready to go, but Roar holding on to it for now. Stitch is changing the atmosphere here. Trapping his way around. He fights Lumpy. Takes him down. Gets Youngjin as well. Oh, Stitch. Here we go. This boy's
any room that's made is massive too.
line of sight he got from the flank that Kongdoo Panthera wasn't prepared for that allowed this to happen. Had he not been able to get out of spawn,
Kongdoo has to switch. They have to play castle control here, so they have to play to cross. into castle, I'd say, and then close these line of sights that they have.
Still playing for it, gets a couple extra rockets in on the back end of that. But that is just going to be Kongdoo Panthera halted as Runaway try to gatekeep them here, quite literally at this choke.
Oh, did they overcommit?
Another one. Straight into Roar, takes him down. The rest
Yeah, the tank's overcommitted a bit. Janu traded suit. So it's even better, technically. This spot is better than having a Mercy if your Anna's able to free reign and not get punished. So like you can have your Pharah playing in this area and then have Orb on him or like on one of the tanks, and then have like Anna playing like here or on like the tower, and then just spam focusing the Pharah as she's playing above them, and they can't overcommit to the Pharah because then they're just going to get blasted and the Pharah's just going to be able to fly up in the air, and Kongdoo's team isn't that good at punishing it. And if you try to like overcommit and basically come from this area, the Pharah is still just going to be playing above you, and the Anna can just walk back and then still be in a safe spot unless they get to the high ground. But by that time, you're trying to cross this like long plane of ground, and the Pharah is just going to be spamming you. The Widow's going to be spamming you. So like it's really weird and awkward to like commit to this. It's like Kongdoo wants like a speed boost or something to cross this ground. So we can see they're trying to cross right here, but like they literally have to trance to walk out and get the space. Youngjin swapping to Hog is probably pretty good. Like I'd say the cart pushing right there, like it's fine actually, because it's not going to push much further if like this hold is like in the proper place. And Bumper and Stitch, or Bumper and Janu were like the only ones who took damage the entire fight. Stitch just took damage at the end. Everyone else was just healthy and just free reigning the entire time. That's literally ideally what you want, is just DPS supports never take damage. Tanks tank all the damage and get hard pocketed. It's only a minute 30. Kongdoo has been like constantly making switches where Decay was playing off tank, Roar was playing Rhine, Ding has been swapping a bunch. The problem that Kongdoo had a lot of times was like they have a very specific comp for just their team. So Youngjin's normally a DPS, Decay is normally a DPS, Ding's normally the off tank, but like they were like, okay, Decay's technically our best Zarya, so he'll always play Zarya. Youngjin's technically our best Brig, so he'll always play Brig, and Ding will play Pharah. But the problem is then, whenever they need to make these swaps, like there's a lot of members swapping alt charge, and in these situations where they're basically like, oh, will this comp work? No, we need a swap. Will this comp work? No, we need a swap. They end up having like a bunch of people switching roles and really like swapping comps, because I feel like this comp right now is pretty weird. Triple tank with like Hog in it is quite weird whenever they're trying to retake in the castle. Like they don't have any range to abuse. So they played it like super baity right there. Kongdoo played like mega baity, and we're just like, let's just send the D.Va through. And I think Runaway overcommitted because they could have just held the Pharah in the air and then just hard pocketed him. But I think they were worried that like they have a Widow now, so they were worried that like the more time that they give Kongdoo to like get space, they're gonna have like a chance where their Widow's just gonna get headshot.
Big value target if he can get it, as that Transcendence is almost available. Whole Hogs going to be popped by Youngjin, just pushing them back into the castle, pushing Janu away, trying to break the mech, and I think he might just have done it. Yes, he does. Slime, however, finds the hits on the Youngjin. The cart moving forward. They barely leave mid in time. Transcendence out from Luffy to keep everybody alive, as Hoxall is over onto his trademark Genji. Right clicking away, trying to get the hits in onto Coma, but Stitch is going to be the one that follows up for the kill. Decay finds Bumper, clicks in, dash through, gets the break
This triple tank has the advantage, technically, whenever you don't have the space. So, like, they were technically trying to chase too long here. Like, I know they're trying to push out the door, but they end up, like, I feel like Slime's inexperience maybe on Zen actually hurts them here. They need to realize that this triple tank is just buying time. So, like, their play should be on the mini here, right? The tanks are going to be holding basically here and here, and then they need to be forcing out this door and gaining the ground up here and basically like playing to counter the Widow. Like, they need members to like get on the castle to be able to get on the Widow. The problem that they do is like they overcommit to this fight too much, and the card is just going to push up, and then whenever the card is like at this area right here, they can no longer like overcommit to the dive on the Widow and hopefully let's like kill the Widow, reset all the ground, and then like get a good fight where the card isn't going to be pushing. So Kongdoo does good to like really stuff aggressively here, use whole hog, but this trance is like popped whenever like dash has been used. Janu's already been isolated and he's getting pushed away, so this whole time they're fighting, like Youngjin's traded, but like they got suit, they used all the cooldowns, they used trance, and the card is already like near the end, so they're not able to commit to anyone anymore, and then this Widow is just eventually able to get the space where they can't commit to the Widow anymore. They really just have to hope that Stitch can land a headshot on their Widow, and it doesn't happen.
Runaway. The completion will be there onto this point B, but it's a minute and 30 seconds on the clock as they try to enter the castle.
That's trademark right there, how you use Primal Rage in a situation like this to guarantee a cart capture. Very well played by Roar. He knew he was going to be making the switch to the Reinhardt right afterwards, so just use Primal Rage to guarantee that final completion there on point B.
Some swaps here.
What's very strong on C.
So like on first point, Runaway was technically able to counter this just by focusing Luffy with like the flanking tracer, but like in this area there's actually not a lot of flank space, so like once the Rhine's actually like taken this ground right here, the only flanking area is right here and there's not really anyone to do it, so the win condition basically changes at this point of the map. And you have to play to spam the main tank more than the other team can, but Runaway didn't end up switching very much, so they basically had their Zen and double tank ult, so they need to use these like super early on to gain the space back.
Them all forward. Roar gets taken down. Twilight finds the kill. Pumper for the Panthera Rage. Goes into the back. Tries to knock thing off the map. Will not be able to do so and rejoins back inside the castle.
This fight was like mega sketch. This trance needed to be popped early again, where the bomb goes in and then this Rhine needs to be isolated. They basically need to just zone the healers because like Kongdoo's gonna be very scared. Like the Mercy is playing like very passively. The Hanzo's already dead and Roar just needs to be turned. Like, they just turn on the Rhine and then look to just isolate and kill him. The problem is if they don't have enough people to commit to it, like, Hacksaw and Bumper basically use their cooldowns to gain the space, and Janu was playing safe to peel for the backline, then they can't commit to it. So, like, the Trance wanted, like, they should have been using the Trance here to gain the space and walk up on him. But now he's using the Trance basically to walk forward when everyone else is, like, already low or use their cooldown, so they can't dive as efficiently. And Hacksaw was already dead.
Kongdoo Panthera now with a lot of good tools here to capture this C. Youngjin gets heal denied.
Zapping away, but now both supports going down as well as Stitch. Bumper dead. Hacksaw.
DK got to keep his energy as well, so he just gets to melt them now. The trance didn't get enough value, and then Hacksaw died because the trance didn't come out soon enough.
He's going to use that spawn. He's going to use that spawn probably right on the wall, as you say, to make sure they can't tag the point. Here it is.
Sit down, locks in the Winston, but Stitch already made his way out. He's skirting around to the back. Dragon plays out from Hacksaw. He dives in deep. He finds Sting. He finds Coma. Gets rid of him, but Youngjin follows up, finds the kill. Onto the Genji, and now Stitch is going to be eliminated. It's just Janu all on his lonesome. Pop out of the mech, will get taken down. Completion's going to be there. Bumper.
Okay.
And final play. I saw Kongdoo Panthera is never a team back in the Apex.
I think we're back to some goats.
Here's the opening. There's the Zarya swap, so he's not going to stick with the Widow except for that opening pick that Koma got last time.
Didn't find the hit. Twilight charging in, topping up Bumper. So those rockets
They did their classic run to a location, have Hacksaw look at the wall and scout things.
That opening pick that Koma got last time.
I think they peeked too much. Twilight peeks here and actually gives their spot away, so Ding's actually able to land rockets.
charging in, topping up Bumper. So those rockets come down from Ding. They work their way out into the open. Orb coming through, just helping to keep everybody topped off. They fall low, fading in the back. Twilight keeping everybody's health bars level here at the moment. He takes a lot of damage, but Slime finds the first kill.
I feel like they're doing the same thing every time.
Bumper. So those rockets come down from Ding.
They come out, they scout the Rhine. I think it's probably a mind game at this point where Kongdoo is trying to bait their Rhine.
They work their way out.
Because he's playing like very far forward right now and can get sped on, but you can see he gets bubbled basically instantly, and then he's also got Mercy and Zen Pocket on him. So he's able to play very aggressively, get the bubble,
Keep everybody topped off. They fall low, fading in the back. Twilight.
and then basically just buy enough time for Ding to actually do something. But Youngjin and Decay need to be playing safe enough where they don't get baited into this, and they end up trading themselves because they're committing all their resources to keep Roar alive.
Here at the moment. He takes a lot of damage, but Slime finds the first kill. As the K goes down.
The problem is when they lose people, whenever the fights are this close, they're just going to be able to run them over and then just maintain this area.
The man on a mission.
Runaway needs to be able to kite,
Kongdoo Panthera comes up with another one. The Pharah going to be eliminated.
or Kongdoo needs to be able to kite.
Gets a res on to Roar, but he goes down. Now Youngjin, now Luffy, now everybody just going to be falling as Runaway explode forward in onto point A, and this is a very bad look for Kongdoo Panthera.
I do.
Your stream freezes? Yeah, I've dropped 0 frames, so.
They pull off as successful of a defense as we saw from Runaway and drain down this massive time.
I do appreciate that Panthera
I'm waking up in 6 hours.
not feed further charge over to Stitch. In fact, because Stitch does not have a Graviton surge and not even close to one, he was around 53%. He's going to make the swap over to the Widow because they can't use, look at that, great opportunity. They can't make use of grab to deny everyone from getting out of spawn like we saw Panthera just do on attack.
Now Rez is dead. He finds another headshot there onto Decay, weakening that Zarya. Roar is going to fall. No Reinhardt to play forward.
I was going to line of sight of that, but
They find members group. They can just go ahead and throw down that Earth Shatter if they so please.
They certainly could, but I mean, in this case, they kind of delay Decay's respawn if he dies. He does build 87% of a grab throughout that exchange.
I really like this Widow with the goats, how they're playing against the Pharah.
Kongdoo Panthera could not say the same about when they were on the drawbridge. As you can see, Stitch is just easily finding opportunities here.
Stitch is really able to free reign here.
No kill. He can get rid of that transition.
He's just a constant threat on this backline and tagging them.
Point blank range in onto Decay. Graviton Surge is going to be used, but it doesn't find any.
Like, Janu wasn't participating in this entire fight. Like, they popped walls. There was, like, the sign of him before. Let's see. So, like, they pop walls, and they see the Pharah is, like, way far behind. And you see Janu is just literally spending the whole fight chasing him.
As you can see, Stitch is just easily finding opportunities here.
Kongdoo's, like, win condition every single fight with this comp is basically just grab, barrage, and then Ryan swinging into things.
For this push, another shot. Point blank range.
And Janu is just straight isolating him over and over and over again.
Graviton Surge is going to be used, but it doesn't find anyone at all.
Decay hits a measly amount of grabs so far in this series.
Taking pot shots.
Is it very small ones or missing?
But Youngjin will be executed at the start. Push forward, answering shatter from Roar.
But no
Can they find
damage.
the follow-up kills? The answer is no, because so many people have to hide their heads from Stitch.
It was a really poor grab.
Follow-up, and that's
Really
what
poor
he's
grab and chatter from Kongdoo.
contesting B here that they no longer have. This is going to be
They overcommit support alts again. That's the problem they had on,
can easily just look for one more
I guess, Night Market and Garden.
afterwards as they head into the castle.
I mean, they have as much time in the bank going into the castle as they did on the point A cap. That was so rapid.
There's the switch. So Stitch is now looking to, of course, just supplement.
So much time back as well. Holy shit. 5 minutes and 22 seconds is a cap. They basically haven't been stopped at all.
Kongdoo, how do they stop this? 30% for another Graviton. Roar playing the corner at the moment. They all push forward. The bubble's there. Self-destruct going to be tossed into the back. Wrap around the pillar, but Ting can't make it in time. He goes down. Another fire strike in on Nakoma. Gets rid of the Mercy. Brigida goes down. And Stitch, even operating at half energy, is still just helping to rip through that Reinhardt. The rounding
Basically the ideal bomb you want. Then just get the free space.
They finish with time in the bank.
Yeah, there's a grab about to be available, and they're going to make the swap over to sustained healing here. Let's see if they can get that grab off.
Rally coming through Slime, just holding the sound barrier for now. We'll toss it out. Helps keep Hawks all alive. Decay getting so close. Has the grab, pins it into the cart so it can't be eaten. They lock up the members of Runaway, but the kills aren't here yet. Oxo goes down, but they trade two back. Ting's gonna get knocked out of the mech. Youngkin dies with the rally available. Roar trying to come back through, does have that shatter, but Bumper tosses his own first. Goes for the charge, looks for a coma, but cannot find him. Roar pushing back in.
I really wish they third person this a bit more. Time bank was actually insane. I wanted to see more focus on who was hitting which at which time.
Good news for Kongdoo Panthera is they finish with time in the bank.
Yeah, there's a grab about to be available, and they're going to make the swap over to sustained healing here. Let's see if they
Because the thing about this fight is like Hawksaw needs to be in the front line to basically have his rally up, so that like he can zone people because he's like giving armor to everyone, and he wants to be like in the tank line giving armor to everyone, and then basically having his passive up so he can build another ult and then also just keep everyone alive because that's the amount of sustain that they want. I think the problem is like
Rally coming through Slime, just holding the sound barrier.
he ends up getting pinned, I think, here.
do sustained healing here. Let's see if they can get that grab off.
Where did he get pinned?
Coming through Slime.
Yeah, he gets pinned right here, and that's basically one of the only one-shot potentials that they have is like him getting pinned and not having bubble, and then they just play to like commit onto him.
Getting so close, has the grab.
Roar pinned in, basically like suicided for it, but he chunked Hawksaw a lot and forced the beat. Then they no longer have beat for this grab that comes up after.
But the kills aren't here yet. Oxo goes down, but they trade two back. Ting's gonna get knocked out of the mech. Youngkin dies with the rally available. Roar trying to come back through, does have that shatter, but Bumper tosses his own first. Goes for the charge, looks for a coma, but cannot.
The problem is like the tank line had so much armor to begin with, and they basically have the spawn advantage because Kongdoo was getting staggered the whole time.
As they try to seal the deal, a party explosion.
Kill John. Protect it. The
That offense was as close to perfect as you could get though from Runaway.
kind of playing against what we've seen from Panthera.
5-minute time bank on Icomol, Jesus.
On to Huxall Spara. They're also with King Ball. Not going to be able to do that with 1 minute here, though. It's just going to be standard goats.
I think they int this first fight, I can't remember.
With this very composition.
Well, a minute on the clock, they get bumped up by a significant margin, but so too does Runaway. So 5:07 for them on this push. Kongdoo Panthera, they need massive success,
Nice
and that's a
angle for
great way
Ting,
to
though.
start. Yeah, Ting just really rockets his way straight into the back, finds the hit.
I think they were trying to bait here.
By a significant margin, but so too does Runaway.
I think Runaway was trying to bait and be like, we have a normal comp. Johnny's playing Diva out in the open.
So 5:07 for them on this push. Kongdoo Panthera.
They tried to hold close, but the problem is like, if they don't get that engage that they want, then they're just like in this open dead zone basically that the Pharah gets to free reign in. And because the Diva was over here, he doesn't get to like have pressure on the Pharah. He has to spend like this whole time rotating, and then there's no damage on Kongdoo, so Coma gets to sit with the Pharah the whole time.
Massive success,
Nice
and that's
angle
a
for
great way
Ting,
to
though.
start. Yeah, Ting just really rockets his way straight into the back, finds the hits there on the Twilight. No res to be found, as it is just going to be that goes, and now Hawksall also going to be going down. John who gets popped out of the mech. This is a fantastic start for Kongdoo Panthera. How far can they go off this?
They lose their main healing, and that's just gonna be over basically. Runaway had to try to commit there. I mean, that's technically the split that they do want. Is if Twilight was up, then they have a 5-man unit come around here and basically wrap and speed on like anyone who's playing over here, and they look to just kill them. And then they have Janu split on his own, and they just fly up against the Pharah and then force the Mercy to pick which person they want to heal.
Really rockets his way straight into the back, finds the hits there on the Twilight. No res to be found, as it is just going to be that goes, and now Hawksall also going to be going down. John who gets popped out of the mech. This is a fantastic start for Kongdoo Panthera.
They almost killed the K,
Can they go
so
off this cap as
Almost killed Decay, almost killed Ding. Like, I feel like if Twilight was still alive, they had a chance to actually win that, but...
He's being very aggressive here, but he's not going to do much if Stitch pulls out the Widow. And Stitch does pull out the Widow, he's just a liability on the far. He will go to the spawning room and make that swap because the Widowmaker is just going to make him irrelevant. It's better for him to be on this Diva where he can mitigate a lot of what Runaway is trying to do, and also it's going to make Stitch's pick here less valuable for this first part heading to B. They have to hold on the cart, so Widowmaker is not going to be very useful against a more tanky composition like this one.
I think Runaway wants this fight exactly, though. With their comp, they have Mercy Zen, and they are going to be fighting in, like, this box. It seems like if Runaway decides the engagement, like, they have to stay on the cart, and Runaway wants to fight them here, because this is the perfect scenario for the Moira and the Lucio to get, like, insane value, is that really close fight. And then the problem is the Mercy and the Zen are going to be, like, playing safe, which is bad for Runaway, but at the same time, they're not going to be getting as much AoE value. And because they won the first fight so comprehensively, it's really hard for them to really just out-trade them with ults. They're basically all even. And then Stitch is able to free reign right here versus Ding, who had to switch. He technically could have stood on the stayed on the far and then just played like over here and then just launched rockets like underneath the doorway and then hit underneath, like near the feet. But
they're trying to bait it again.
Pushing his way around. That's going to be the charge coming down, but the Shatter is still hit. They charge in. 3 kills very swiftly coming through off the back of that break on Janu's mech. And Kongdoo Panthera can keep moving.
I think I know what they were trying to do. Basically, they're trying to bait them. They try to bait the Rhine out very often. Janu ends up peeling for Stitch though, and ends up getting like blasted by the Zen is the problem. Like Luffy ends up just like massacring the Diva. So
Runaway was trying to look for pop-up shield there. They were trying to bait it, not the same way they did on Lijiang, of course, where they had the supporter ultimates, but actually, in fact, it just baited out, didn't block it because they had 2 barriers with both the Brigitte and the Rhine. They failed to get the block. They miss it by just a second, so Kongdoo Panthera with massive ult advantage. Decay doesn't have the grab he wanted here, though.
He has it ready to go just about now. One final click.
But it's too late.
He sees that Diva.
He has to back away. He can't try to do that into the Diva.
There's going to be a long wrap around to try to gain control over the point. He can maybe pin it into the wall here. Going to toss it out. He manages to find the hit, but the Shatter comes down. Luffy keeping everybody topped up here with that Transcendence. A self-destruct up into the air from Janu, looking for a pick, not going to find him.
it's honestly so massive. They flipped the map, which I'd say is fine because Kongdoo gets to put their backline over here and like somewhat play safe. But the problem is their front line is now in a situation where even if they get this grab off, like they try to, and basically just try to cap the point, there's a chance that like the Doomfist is able to just punch someone off the bridge with where they're standing. Like they don't get to play in a safe spot. So like if they were pushing the cart, then potentially they just have like a member here and then they have other members playing safe here. But they all have to cross and play in this area where they can just have the Doomfist come up and punch someone off the bridge, and it ends up being Decay, which is a big problem. And then the self-destruct comes in like, yeah. Flank to take castle was pretty big brain.
Alright, so the attack here for Runaway will be Stitch on the Widow to start, but he'll switch over to this Zarya if he can't get a pick. They have a lot of time to keep him on it for a little bit here. So he is going to look for he's going to look for a flank.
That's coming down from Ding, playing quite far forward here. Not going to find too many connections.
The Zarya swap does come through here. Ding is just looking for consistent damage. Here's the speed boost.
Rockets coming down, looking for the
Aurora's playing way too close again. It seems like it's like the same things are happening over and over again, where I think Aurora should be playing to bait more. Like he looks, and the play that they're doing is like bait him, get the pin bubble, but the bubble literally gets insta-killed when 4 people are hard focusing him like that, and then he's able to get stunned.
so. Jono has a follow-up, but Hoxel will be traded out.
Youngjin's gonna get D-Mac too.
Getting taken out of that one. Stitch finds a kill in onto the cage.
It's like reasonably even right now.
The members of Kongdoo Panthera kiting their way into the back of the point. Luffy, the transcendence already built up, has that one set and ready to go. Might feel enough pressure to pop it, and he does.
I don't know if they won fast enough though. Runaway, I think technically got the fight they wanted.
For consistent damage. Here's the speed boost.
Rockets coming down, looking for the hits. Gets one there on a Hoxel.
The problem is Luffy's ult charge basically.
Guy as he falls low.
Ding dies, Roar is basically in a shit spot. They've already used their cooldowns on him.
He's up over top of him. He's gonna take him down, pin in on Akoma as they try to get the
They kill the Mercy, so in like this situation it looks good for them. But Twilight hasn't been getting enough healing, I'd say.
He's gonna take him down, pin in on Akoma as
I think he was focusing too much on right-clicking this this Mercy to try to kill her. Where you can see, I think if he would have just been healing, then the majority of his team would have been much healthier.
try to get the kill and will be able to do so. John
Because the problem is like Youngjin is able to trade for Hacksaw, which kills a lot of their healing.
Hoxel will be traded out.
Jonu overcommits a bit too much, and Luffy's been free reigning for most of this fight. So they've split them up too much, where Slime needed to be using heals at this point, where they should have just been speed boosting and having Twilight basically solo heal.
Taken out of that one. Stitch finds the kill in onto the cage. They work their way onto the point. The first hit getting ready to come.
But they got split in too many spots.
Panthera kiting their way into the back of the point. Luffy, the transcendence already built up, has that one set and ready to go. Might feel enough pressure to pop it, and he does. He'll charge back in. One tick comes through for the side of Runaway. Actually, barely miss it. They don't have that
There was like fights everywhere. There was a fight over on Broken. There was a fight over here. There was one like near the cafe behind the point. Like there was too many fights for goats. So
It's crazy to me to see in everyone except Luffy's first finals for Panthera how calm they are. In this position, Runaway's been many times.
Twilight falls low, has to fade away. Jono goes back up to try to deal with Ding. Taking him dangerous.
Runaway definitely needed like a hard reset here. They don't want to be playing in this area. They were so vigilant about
It's crazy to
making rotations in like the covered areas, or just making rotations and then just exploding out and not hiding or being out in the open like they are. But they just like make a rotation here, and they're spending too much time out in the open, giving too much time for Ding.
in everyone except Luffy's first finals for Panthera how calm they are.
Because they're all kind of split up right here, and then Ding is just getting a ton of ult charge.
Twilight falls low, has to fade away. Jono goes back up to try to deal with Ding. Taking him dangerously low, but Ding is still going to be sustained. Looks like the pocket comes out of Coma, and they keep him up. Hoxel and Stitch dead. Many ultimates set to go for Runaway.
It isn't game ending because they still basically have a normal time bank.
Is going to make for a much slower push in the street.
But
Exactly. So Panthera has two options here. One is to use no ultimates and give this point and then try to control the gate. The other is to use all ultimates and hope to ult trade Runaway with the defensive advantage they have. I think the first option is the better one here, so we'll see.
Rally to open. The barrage comes down. Roar finds the kill instantly on the Hoxel. Now Bumper dead. Slime trades one back, but Ding, the damage has already been dealt. He comes up with the kills. Dropping
That
that one
shouldn't have
through.
happened.
Self-destruct from
I think they were playing to bait.
I think the first option is the better one here, so we'll see. Defensive advantage they have. I think
Seems like both teams are kind of trying to bait here. Like Runaway has the free grav because Kongdoo isn't able to match it, but they have the Pharah, it looks like, hiding here. So it looks like they want to like run up to basically be like, all right, we get the free grav in this area, technically like as close as we can, so we can look to burn the tanks. But like they try to overcommit, I'd say. Like too many members walk up, where Hacksaw wants to be like hitting in it ideally, but it's like it's too much of an overcommit where he needs to be playing a bit safer because he can get shotgunned by this barrage with how close Ding is, and unless Jonu is like immediately matrixing it, he's just gonna get insta killed is the problem. So
barrage comes down. Roar finds the kill instantly on the Hoxel. Now Bumper dead. Slime trades one back, but Ding, the damage has already been dealt. He comes up with the kills. Dropping
That
that one
shouldn't have
through.
happened.
Self-destruct from Jonu. Manages to find Luffy, but Kongdoo Panthera is still holding the choke.
And so option C, which I didn't list, was win the fight without using any ultimates, and Runaway uses a lot of theirs, which is what Kongdoo Panthera got. They only used the barrage there. And self-destruct being used for Janu is a big problem. That's one of the best tools they had. Grab comes up.
Coming through. That's going to be the Earth Shatter out from Roar. It's absolutely huge. Hawksall goes down. Charged in. Finds Bumper. Slime is dead. Runaway. The clock is being drained right now.
I think because they traded Ding, they just tried to get on the point as fast as they could, get some more ults out.
In grand finals multiple times. There are a lot of memories for the Runaway fans of that Apex Season 4 final map. But Runaway still have the support ultimates. They're going to have to use those to get Stitch and Bumper into position. It's going to be Stitch looking for a Deadeye flank, but it's going to take him a while to build that.
Push forward. Charge comes in. Bumper's just going to be eliminated right
And the
off the start. The sound
barrier's
barrier now going to be used. Another shatter from Roar. Lock.
Roar's been consistently doing this. They're playing to bait him over and over and over again.
Still have the support ultimates. They're going to have to use those to get Stitch and Bumper into position.
They're not rotating like they were before. Like, you can see the way they're rotating. The way Runaway is rotating. It isn't how they were rotating before. Ding's at 29% alt charge. Their rotations before were always rotate around this building and use the cover completely, and now they're just running it up main and then eating rockets the whole way as they're coming in to engage.
Fans of that Apex Season 4 final map. But Runaway still have the support ultimates.
Like, you want Janu to be coming into these fights with Matrix so we can ideally use it at the best opportunity.
Stitch and Bumper into position.
So I feel like they're getting a bit lazy here, and they're taking a lot of rockets as they're coming in. And it's forcing Bumper to look up at the Pharah when I don't think he wants to.
It's going to be Stitch looking for a
I don't know if he just turns his brain off a bit here, but it's a pretty big mistake looking up at the Pharah. I think he's like paying too much attention to the Pharah. He walks in here, like, I know they want to be like engaging, like very quick, but he looks to like Fire Strike and then really just enables himself to get pinned here, and they don't have a bubble to match. Like, if the other team gets bubbled, then like the stun isn't going to do anything. Like, these two aren't going to be able to stun, so
Push forward. Charge comes in. Bumper's just going to be eliminated right off the start. The sound barrier now going to be used. Another shatter from Roar. Locks them all down. And Runaway just cannot hold a candle to this defense from Kongdoo Panthera.
They certainly cannot. The barrier being wasted is such a big problem for Runaway now. They needed the speed boost into the barrier to get Bumper into position. They used the barrier
I don't know how much I like the McCree.
Bumper in that moment. It was just a second too late. If he survives, he gets the count.
I'm not sure if they're trying to like double dip and basically be like, we have a DPS that can help us engage with goats, and then we can also like play to like counter the Pharah. But I feel like if they're playing it properly, and if they potentially just use like Lucio, Zen, Brig, then they give themselves the chance to like discord the Pharah and then play to counter him that way with just the Diva and the Zen, rather than like using a Kree.
He's going to make the swap over to the Mercy for res potential here for Bumper.
Barrage ready to go. Grab comes down.
Huge great angle here.
All just fall time and time again. Runaway try to push forward, but they just can't do anything.
And Kongdoo is just controlling this area right now. Again, besides Luffy, no one on this team has seen a grand finals. Koma was on the bench when Runaway was in Season 2, but he did not play. He was there in that grand finals against Lutakai, did not play.
They're swapping their comp at 115. This is pretty awkward. They have a massive time bank, and they've been winning with a just normal goats comp and how they're playing it. I feel like they get shut down once or twice, and they're just making the same mistakes over and over again. You can see they're continuing to path through main. Ding is literally sitting skybox above them and just like hitting rockets into them.
Twilight's dead.
Ding's a little more Johnny on the spot with shutting them down. He comes up with the kill on Twilight, forces the res from Slime. Rockets coming in. There's nearly another barrage, but there's another charge before that. Bumper just
Yeah, Runaway is starting to make like a ton of mistakes.
at all. Now there's another shatter. Kongdoo Panthera, against all odds, are trying to pull off this full hold.
And they certainly may. They have still the ult advantage. Stitch respawns with a Deadeye, but how can he ever use it? Given the scenario, it's going to be literally impossible unless a mistake is made here. We're looking for the
Roar.
flame.
Oh, Stitch almost spots him. Okay, he'll peel back. That could have been everything to undo Kongdoo Panthera's defense, but now Hawksall's going to be dead as he swaps over onto the Tracer. Youngjin comes up with that kill.
That should
and
be
they
the
can
end of
push
it.
forward. Yet again, 20 seconds remaining.
There's just nothing that Runaway
It is really tragic how Runaway falls apart here.
reset. They've got 15 seconds. Hawksall makes the switch to Sombra. He's going to try to probably backdoor the point and look for a support kill to open this up. It's not going to be easy.
He's got to get the hell in there. There's 5 seconds remaining now. clock. No idea where he is at the moment. We can't see him. Shots coming down. Deadeye does find Ding.
There's the back door.
Point. He forces out the OT as he tries to stay alive. He is. Stitch comes up with another kill. Youngjin will fall, but John who traded out as Roar comes up with that kill off the pin. First shatter here from Bumper.
Runaway like somewhat split them there. Like they force Kongdoo basically to come back onto the point, and then Stitch gets like the isolated kill on Ding. They probably overcommit too much here, Kongdoo, to like protect the point. Where they can like allow a tick, but then just hold super aggressively, don't let the tanks to walk in.
Goes down, and in the last seconds they force the OT. Runaway trying to get this cap, but now they have to make it to point B.
And the biggest
overtime.
The biggest problem is Youngjin is dead right now. He needs to be right on the other side of this gate. The fact that he's dead means that Runaway won't get through this. Yeah, that is so huge, and I think they will get through it. Youngjin is going to run as fast as he can to try to get in here to set up for what Roar is looking for here, but I think it's just going to be a little bit too late. Huxel has the ability to flank here now, and also is very close to an EMP. But
The problem Runaway has is there's a lot of ults up for Kongdoo, and there's no way for them. They have to have 2 tanks probably at least on the point always, and then be ready to like hard pocket Janu, because this Grav Barrage is going to come in. They can't do anything against it. They hopefully just have to have Stitch be in a position where he can headshot the Pharah. But the Pharah, oh, it was so smart by Ding to go over the wall. I think they maybe scouted him, and then they just flew the pharmacy over the wall, and then at that point they can't defend against it anymore, and they're just going to get Barrage from behind.
Barrage drops it down. That's it. And they got hopeful for maybe just a moment, but in one fell swoop, Kongdoo, they shut it down. They get rid of the...
Runaway definitely panicked once the they started to get like their default strategy of just isolating the Rhine, getting cooldowns out, and then trading on the other players just didn't work. Then they started to panic and pick just a bunch of wonky comps.